Yo, 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 what's up, Kwanza Global family?
Hey.
This is episode 10, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about how sometimes in life you're going to have to be the bad guy. And that just goes for you being the bad guy to other people or to someone else.
You're
Not you,
looking out for yourself.
not necessarily you being a bad person. That's not what we're saying. We're talking about how in life sometimes people be um, will not like the decisions you take, the decisions that you make for for your life, the decisions that you make for your life. Some people may not agree with it for whatever reason, but at the end of the day, you have to make those decisions for yourself. No one can make those decisions for you, and because you make certain decisions, you may be looked at as the bad guy. The bad guy. Quotations around the bad guy. You may be looked at as the villain, and people will put that black hat on you and make you look, you know, as the enemy. And it won't sit well with them. But at the end of the day, you have to make those decisions for your life, and you have to live with those decisions. Nobody else has to live with those decisions. Like really directly. Those decisions that you make for yourself, affect you directly, and of course the people that are close to you, as well. But at the end of the day, of course, it's gonna affect you the most, um, personally. So those decisions that you make, well, you know, people, people or someone may look at you and tag you as the make you look like the villain, but you got to know yourself. You know what I mean? You got to know yourself. You got to be confident in who you are. That's why it's important to be real with yourself. And when you make those decisions, whatever decisions they may be, whether it be a hard decision or an easy decision, but it's a decision nonetheless. No matter what, you just have to understand that, how people perceive you as when you make certain decisions does not define who you are. It does not make you a bad person. It does not make you less of a person, and it does not. Again, it doesn't define you. It doesn't make you you. There's certain decisions you have to take, and people will not. It won't sit well with certain people in your life. That's just how it is. You know, people will not agree with you on everything that you do in your life, and you have to live with that. You have to accept that. And then there's people, we've talked, in previous episodes, before, a little bit just about haters, and they can be grouped into that in the sense that they'll, certain, no matter what decision you make, they are, always, um, nitpicking and, you know, trying to find the negative in whatever you do and whatever you say and everything, in your life. And you just, you have that villain tag on you. And that's just, at the end of the day, that's just life. You have to accept that. And I think the greats, of, we're talking greats of the greats, really notable figures that we know, um, in any field, not only accept that, but and not only do they accept that and understand that, um, and recognize that, but they also, I think the best of them really, the best of us that really understand that this is part of life really also embrace it. And it's like it's gonna happen. And then when it comes to regards to people that are just looking for you to just look at you already as the villain, use it as it could be a motivation, in certain aspects where it's like, hey, you know, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm gonna keep, elevating and progressing and getting better, and not caring what y'all are, what y'all think or what y'all say about it. And I'm gonna keep, moving on up and living my life, and unapologetically, living my life, without fear or, worry or looking over my shoulder kind of thing. So that type of, you know, using that as, embracing it where it's not something where you're so scared. You're not scared of any backlash or the criticism or the hate and, the negative criticism, rather, to be specific, the negative criticism and the naysayers and the nitpickers and people always looking at the dark side of it, of the problem or of your or of any situation, period. So I think, this topic is just, to say that, hey, if they want to put, in their life, in that person's life or those people's life, if they want to place the black hat on you, hey, that's fine, That again, it doesn't define who you are, but you have to, still keep on going. Got to keep pushing. Got to always the main the priority, but the priority, you know, you must prioritize, you know, understanding who you are though, being real with yourself. That's priority number one, because that it's a part of life, the hate and people not agreeing with certain decisions and you feeling like you letting people down or people feeling like you let them down and stuff like that. The and the thing with that is if you are not confident in who you are and being real with who you are and what you're about and the direction you're going, and all of that, and really having a purposeful the decisions you're making and an intent behind it as well. If you're not have a solid foundation there, that's a problem, because then, you know, if there's certain decisions that you're making that don't sit well with the people around you or or whoever, then all of that's going to start getting in your head. You're going to start doubting yourself. You're going to start doubting yourself and wondering whether you made the right decision. You're going to start seeing, instead of saying, looking at the glass half full, you're looking at it half empty. You're going to start looking at the downside of things, being a Debbie Downer. You're going to start looking at the negatives of things. You're going to start, your perspective will be for the worse instead of for the better. You're not looking at the bright side anymore. And, you're making your, instead of letting your light shine, you're dimming your light. Instead of, being that light for someone, because you're so focused on what everyone's opinions are and what everyone else is saying and how people are perceiving you as and what people are saying about you or what they may be saying about you, even if they aren't saying it to you, and all of these thoughts are coming in your head. So this is exactly what would happen if you're not truly confident in who you are. You're not truly confident in what you're about, what your purpose is, the intent behind the decisions you're making, the choices you're making, understanding why you're making those decisions, and that comes with, being in your purpose, the vision God has given you, what God has placed in your heart, you utilizing, the gifts God has given you to, fulfill your purpose and just go out in the world and take over. All of that, is part of you understanding who you are. If you don't understand who you are, all these decisions you're making, it ends up looking to you as is, it could be right, it could be wrong, I don't know, all the time. And it's kind of, you're just sitting there on trying to balance yourself on a seesaw. And you guys know a seesaw, it goes back and forth if it's not balanced, correctly. One side teeters to the left, to the right, back and forth. There's not a balance. There's not there's not a place where you understand where you're going. You're not firm. You're moving back and forth. And that's the issue. If you yourself are not sure of where you stand, you yourself are not sure of your decisions and what's going and what you expect to come out of those decisions, and where you're going, period, the direction you're going, because it's backed behind your purpose, and you know and your vision and your why, they're all connected. If that is not, if you're not sure in that, if you don't have that, period, if you don't have that, then you're not also sure of of your own self, of who you are. You're not really sure of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and the point behind it. And if that's the case, then it's easy to get to crumble under the pressure, essentially, to for it to be pressure, when other people are telling you to do this, do that, or don't do this, do that. And if you make a certain decision, feeling bad about it, beating yourself up about it because you yourself aren't sure. So now you're using other people's opinions, kind of trying to make that be your own, use that as your own, when it's not really your own. It's not really your own thoughts or your own decisions. It's not something that you're really standing firm on. You're trying to have it's kind of like a filler that you're trying to use now, and that's the problem there. And then someone else will come in and say something else, and then you'll try to use that and ponder on that, and then someone else will say something else, and then you're gonna drive yourself crazy. You're gonna be lost, and that's the problem. You were already lost in the first place because you weren't really firm on. You don't really know who you are yet. You haven't really gotten to the point where it's like, what is my purpose? Why did God put me here? What has God given me to give to the world? So you haven't even found that out yet. So you're already, still trying to figure that out. You don't have an actual direction yet. So if you don't have an actual direction yet, then now people trying to feed you stuff, you're gonna be even more lost. You already, not already you don't even know what direction you're going in yet. You're not even being guided yet. You're not even being, you're not even have a firm foundation yet of what you're doing. So now other people are trying to tell you something, then you're gonna be lost. You're just, you're practically going to be lost because you do not know yourself where you're going yet. You don't understand what's going on. So now other people are trying to tell you something. You don't actually know if it's right or not, but you hope it is, or you're kind of guessing, and you're trying to, you're not sure. And because you're not sure, then, well, you're going to go with it hoping that's the right thing to do. But, eventually that can only last for so long, and then something else will come up. And it's just you trying to find your way. And you won't end up being, even more confused, or just as confused as you were anyway. Because it's like, that's none of that is you. None of that is coming from what God really wants for you. That's what everyone else thinks is the best for you, what everyone just wants to tell you, and or what, whether good advice, bad advice. The point is, it's not. It doesn't. It may not necessarily apply to you. And so it's important to, within all of this, even, dealing with this topic, of sometimes, having to play that villain role, be that villain in in the life of some people. You have to understand who you are at the end of the day. So because otherwise people are going to make you feel bad or feel some type of way about the decisions you make. And then that will get in your own head, and you could lose yourself, and you do not want to lose yourself. That's the last thing you want to do on this journey, in this journey of life, that we all have, to take individually, and navigate, with God's guidance. We all have, our part to play, and we can't play it if we don't know what to do, and we're just, we're in our own heads, basically, screwing ourselves up, tripping over our own feet, and tripping over other people's feet because we're trying to take their advice or listen to what they have to say instead of what God is trying to tell you in your life. and that he's already, that he's been telling you through all the experiences that you've been going through all your gifts and everything that you're going through in your life. You just gotta listen. You just gotta, be still. You just gotta, take that time and really understand and really think about it. Because it's there. You don't have to go in a faraway land or place necessarily, to find it. God is always speaking to you, and it's important to really understand who you are again. But once you get to that point, then you know, back to what we're saying here is once you get to that point where you know who you are, right? Now you know you're firm on that and where you're going. You got a purpose. You know you have a purpose, and each and every day is about you understanding that, recognizing that, and living it. Through the things you do daily. The various things you do daily. Once you understand that, the black hat scenario becomes much, I mean, relatively speaking, much easier to navigate because you know who you are. So there's certain decisions you're gonna have to take where I talked about it from my own experience before, where it's like, um you know I'm over here, growing up, and people asking me what I want to do when I grow up. I'm not sure yet, but I'm just going with the answer because that's what my parents did growing up. They were doctors, so all right, so that's what I'm thinking about. But I'm not sure yet, right? But once I get to the point where I'm making the decision not to, you know, pursue that as a profession, right? I don't want to do that. That's not what I actually want to do for real, thinking about it. And I decide and I finally make the decision what I want to do, and building this brand, Kwanza Global, and, you know, various other things, that I'll be doing along the way, and doing that and just going into this, basically entrepreneurial journey as well. That decision, definitely was a decision I had to make, but it was a decision I had to think about, and also understanding myself in that. So now, when inevitably so, when the you know people will be like, oh, why don't you want to do this instead? It's more of, essentially it's more of a safer route, it's more secure route. It's like, oh, you already have uh the background, knowledge on it, or the experience, or you have the privilege of doing it, or the advantage of doing, going to be a doctor instead and doing this and that, or you have the more than enough capability to do it. Why not do it? And do, even if you want to do what you're pursuing now, you could do it later on. And having to navigate that and not let that discourage me, or follow suit with people's suggestions, or succumb to their concerns, because if I didn't know myself, I wasn't sure of my decision, and you know the purpose that I have, then it would have been, I would have folded, I would have folded at the end of the day, period. And that's not, that's where a lot of this is just, we're just talking from experience, and I would have folded, and it's happened, it's happened, it's not once, twice, but it just happens where it's like, oh, why aren't you doing this instead? It's like, even with what you went to school for, why aren't you doing this instead? Why aren't you doing this instead? Or why did you choose this? Or what are you doing? It's like, it's not something that, it brings up either doubts or concerns or question, and it's not it doesn't seem like a you know something that people really place their confidence in. But I mean, it's not for them to place their confidence in as far as what I'm doing, but at the end of the day, that's life, and that's what happens. But the amount of times it's happened, and of course, especially early on, if the reason I didn't slip up or fold is because I was sure of my decision. And the reason I was sure of my decision is because I was sure of who I am, what I'm about. And, I know that what God placed in my heart, you know, it was true. It wasn't a mistake or an accident or a get rich scheme or something just to pay the bills or something just to pass by or something just to do as a hobby or something just to do for the summer or the spring or just for a season or a time being. No, this is like my life. This is something that I'm gonna do, and it's something that I'm gonna live out, right? So it's something that if we've talked about on the pod before, but all of these things are connected. But the point of the matter is, when those questions came up or those conversations came up in my life, with certain people where it's just like, is this actually what you want to do, or is this, are you sure you don't want to do this? It's like, oh, this so and so person is doing this, right? So and person already uh got into this school or graduated with this or is already working here and doing that, and all of that, trying to make me kind of rethink or reevaluate, my decision or where I want to go with this. It's happened, again, more than, a few times, but that's why, I really want you guys to understand that I'm talking from a place of experience. We always talk from a place of experience. So we're not talking just to, give you from another person's point of view what we've heard, but from actual place of experience and and within the journey, we're still going, It's not like, oh, we just made it. Like, no, we're still going through the journey as well. And it's important to even have conversations like this within the journey, especially. But again, I've had conversations where it's like, all right, this, over and over again. Sometimes, within a week, within a day, you have to make that decision to, unfortunately, let people down, be the bad guy, be that villain, be that, you know, be the person that has the black hat on in that person's story for the time being, and it's different for different people depending on the circumstance in people's life, depending on what it is. But sometimes you have to be that role in someone's life. But hopefully, it's not forever, and it's just a brief thing. And then people, once uh, you know, God lays it out for them to finally see, if they get the opportunity to see why, they see why, you made those decisions. And even if the decision you make isn't, I don't know, they, it's not something that I don't know, validates anything for them. That's not the point. The point is for you to be, once you understand what you're about, and you're sure about it. You have a, it's really, it's an intentional thing, you know. Whatever the outcome, again, you leave it in God's hands at the end of the day. But it's not something where you're over here teetering and doubting and you're unsure of yourself or why you're even doing it. We talked about in the last episode, this is not a YOLO situation. This is not about YOLO. This is not about you only live once and just do it just to do it. No, there's a reason behind it. So all of that is just to say that, hey, at the end of the day, you're making that decision for a reason, and how other people feel about it and how that decision you made makes you look in their eyes is, you have to come to the fact that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to be strong about it and just accept it, embrace it, and it is what it is. And in some cases, you know holding yourself to other people's opinions, become irrelevant. If God tells you to step out and you over here worrying about what your mom or dad will say, or your friend, or your your friend, or whoever it is, whoever is close to you in your life, or if you're so worried about what they'll say, um you're going to hold yourself back at the end of the day. If God says, to jump, you got to jump. God's put it in your heart, and that's what you're supposed to do. You got to do it. It doesn't matter who it is. Because a lot of us, we have as we should, we have the respect for our parents. We have respect for, you know, some of our peers, who are doing well. We have respect for, just, certain people that we may not maybe not know necessarily personally, but just people we know, who are just highly respected individuals. There's, we have, we have love for them too. We have respect for, our wives, our spouses, our significant others. We have respect for, there's so many people in our lives that we, want to want for them to be happy, want for them to, be okay, to be, to be good, and for us to be on good terms with one another. But I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes all of that can cloud your judgment, and not only can it cloud your judgment, it can make you forget that, you're not living life for any of those people at the end of the day. As much as they are a part of your life, you're not living for them. You're not living for them, and your life does not, they cannot dictate, where you go in life. They cannot make certain decisions for you. Or they shouldn't be making decisions for you. They shouldn't, be making decisions for you, and cannot be having the final say over, the choices you make, the decisions you make. At the end of the day, you still have to have that. You still play the role of your life. Your life is your life at the end of the day, and you have to understand that, right? So holding on to people's opinions, and sometimes we not only do we hold on to people's opinions, right? We even fabricate or imagine what people will or might say. And even if it's true, sometimes we let even just the imagination of, or the fear of what people will think of us or might say with the decision we make, you know, consume us. And that's a big problem. But that, again, that is very, very much easier to navigate once you know yourself, once you know who you are, once you are able to I identify that hey, I'm being real with myself here. This is what I'm about. This is my journey, and this is where I'm going. And this is my life, and this is and God has provided me with a clear and evident and man like unwavering blueprint of what I will be doing, with my life, and there will be other things that I'll be doing along the way. But this right here, I know this is what I'm be doing with my life, and I'm starting it right here. And then as other things, other opportunities God creates for me to do along, my journey within me living my purpose right here, this is what I'll be doing. But no one's gonna tell me that not to take this step right here that God is clearly telling me to take. God is telling me to take this first step. You know what I mean? Like, I'm listening and understand. I've sat down and I've meditated on it. I've pondered on it. I've thought about it. I've prayed about it. I've cried about it. I've went through all these experiences, this, that, and the third. And you're gonna tell me that no, basically that no, this is not what you should be doing. That this is not the right path for you. Are you sure this is the right path? This, that, and the third. It's like, you know what I mean? You have to be so convinced, man. You have to be so sure. You have to be so firm. You have to be so confident. You have to be so, there. You have to be, you have to be there. You have to be, you're there, you're there, you're there. You have to be there and just understand that this is you. This is where you're at. This is where you're going, and that will make making those decisions, what, despite what other people may look at and how people may look at you and think about those decisions, it's irrelevant, point blank period. It does not matter, right? It does not matter, and it's and then you really understand that this walk is just you and God, man. You and God, you and God. And, again, this is not about, that the people around you, you're not, you could care less what they say. It's just understanding that, there's certain points in your life, there's various points in your life, you just have to make those decisions that are completely necessary for you to make, and not beat yourself up about how people feel about it. You know what I mean? You have to, have that, you have to be discerning, and when those situations come up, you have to have that wisdom, and when those times come up where you really cannot, beat yourself up at what people may say. There's certain times where, of course, you can take advice where it is, and really think about it and stuff like that, and really ponder on it. And there's certain things you're not sure about. That's that's why wisdom, wisdom is a very important thing. There's certain things you do need advice on, or you do need to ponder on, or you do need someone's advice, or you might need a couple of counsels where it's like, yo, I'm not sure what to do on this one here. And, of course, that's wisdom. That is wisdom. 100%. That is wisdom. But then there are other times, and there are other times, and there are pivotal times where you just have to make a decision, and the decision you have to make. The decision you want to make, you want to make and need to make, concerning your life and, on your journey, and you make that decision, and people don't agree with it, don't agree with it. And either which way, no matter what decision you end up making, if you want to do a consensus on it, there's still gonna, on every single decision you make. It'd be hard to, as you go through life, there's a lot of people who will still choose another side. Not everyone's gonna agree with every decision you make. So I mean, going through life trying to even have people majority agree with your decision, it's gonna be a real hectic and very crazy and headache filled, and just that's a stressful life trying to worry about that. But hey, if if people want to throw that black hat on you in their life, let them do that. But again, make sure you know who you are, and then you'll be fine with with the decisions you make. You'll be able to, continue pushing forward, continue to making those moves, and doing what you do, without hesitation, without without looking over your shoulder again, and you know what I mean, and thinking twice about it, and feeling like you let your whole family down. You need to get out of that as well. You need to get out of that box of that. And it's a part of being free. Really, it is, because you're just gonna, especially when it's a radical things, man. Like, can you imagine that during those times? I mean, last episode we talked about it. Imagine, during those times with MLK and Malcolm X, man. You know how many people were against them? Like, woo. Even their own people, even black people themselves, they didn't necessarily have every single black person during that time on their side agreeing with them, or that really understood what they were about, right? So there are people who were like, their opinions were, they were just like, their opinions could have, you could say they could have. I'm pretty sure so many people voiced their opinions to MLK and saying like, "Why are you doing this? You're gonna get yourself killed." And so many other, you probably couldn't imagine the conversations, right, that were going on during that time. But he still went out and did what he did. He still went out and changed the world, for the better at the end of the day. Same with Malcolm X. Same with so many other notable figures that you can think of. But they changed the world for the better, and It's just, broke barriers. But they would not have been able to do that if they were thinking about the fact that they could have died. That's a big, big point, and it happened. It happened. But hey, that was that. You know what I mean? It's like I understand what you're saying. I understand your concern. I understand this, that, and the third, but that is not the purpose of why I'm doing this. That is not the intent. I'm not that. You know what I mean? Like those consequences or those things that you're telling me about, I understand that. I've thought of that, and even if I didn't, whatever, that's okay. But there's a reason why I'm doing this, and the reason why I'm doing this is bigger than anything that you could put up against it. That's a difference, and that's why your purpose is not something that's just whatever. No, your purpose is huge. Your purpose is it's every day. You know how big that is, where someone could come up to you and say, "Yo, you could die doing this," and yes, I mean naturally probably gonna be some fear there or some concern about that, but it's kind of like what I'm trying to do. It's like, hey, if that happens, that happens, but that's not gonna stop me from making this decision, and also those are big decisions. So it's like if someone comes up to you and tells you, brings up something as, uh, a repercussion or something as big as that, and you're like, okay, I know, but the decision is what that's you really understanding who you are, understanding why you're on this earth, why God placed you here, what you're about, what you're doing each and every day, and what your daily decisions are, surrounded on and are a part of, you know. So I mean, each and every day is about making those decisions, and really, really taking that on and understanding that, um, you know, it's I mean, some days will be harder than others. I mean, it's life, man, and we're all going through it together. We're all human at the end of the day. But um, again, really understanding who you are is important. Again, it's so crucial, man. That firm foundation is crucial because otherwise, when people throw that black hat on you in their narrative, in their story, in their life, and they throw that black hat on you, and you're the villain in their narrative, in their story, and you're the bad guy for them, or for them, or for that one person, whoever, it'll be hard to really take on that pressure. It'll be pressure for you, you know. Um, it won't be light for you. It'll be heavy. It'll be a burden that you think you also have to carry alone, and that would be, a shame for you if you think like that. So that's why you have to be firm with it. You have to understand, and you have to. And of course, you gotta lean on other people. It's great. It's important to have other people in your corner during times like that too, that will be with you regardless. Like even if they may have their own, opinions on it or whatever, they're still with you regardless of that. Like they'll tell you like, hey, I feel this way about it, but yo, if you think this is a decision that you have to do, if this is the decision you want to make, then go for it. Those type of counsels, and then those people in your corner that are really will really be there and stick with you regardless. So that's also very important too. But even with that, they can tell you that, but if you yourself are unsure, then there's nothing for them to stick to, as far as a decision, because you'll be flopping on the decision you're trying to make, and then there's nothing for them to really, stick beside you on. So you have to be sure of who you are and what you're about, at the end of the day. And then definitely have people around you that, still have your back regardless, but again, it's part of life. It's a part of life. You know, call this the Black Hat episode, but it's a part of life. At the end of the day, um, could be the villain some days, and some days you'll be the hero. But regardless of that, you're still going to be, you still have to be strong in your decision. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's just it's a learning. I think it's a learning curve too, to understand that even during those times where you feel like today, I know this decision's not gonna sit well with so and so, or people ain't gonna be too happy about this. It's just like sometimes you just go through the times where it's like, all right, it happens, you gotta accept it. And there's times where people are just like really happy about it. Certain decisions you're making, you're the hero, right? You become the hero in the story, and you're killing it. But there's other times it's not gonna be like that. So I mean, again, some days are harder than others, but that's it. For sure. But man, I said my piece on this. For sure, this is a topic I really wanted to. That I had written down, actually much earlier, as part of the topics we're gonna talk about. But I definitely think this is an important one we had to wrap up, for sure. So that's episode 10. Episode 10, the Black Hat Villain episode. Alright, episode 10 in the books. Catch y'all again next week. Much love once again. And Kwanza Global, we out. Peace.